I was like, who do you want to intro? You want me to intro?
We'll cut this part.
Yeah.
We're back, baby.
Woo.
Okay. All right, welcome back, guys. Another episode of Spill the Goods.
Yes.
In case you didn't know, we love Mom Dad. And
Yes, we do.
Democratic Socialists have been everywhere recently in the news. They've won several Democratic Party primaries.
Some big ones, yeah, absolutely.
And we've got some running in New Hampshire, too.
We do.
So we thought it would be a great time to learn more about what they are and what they're not.
Yeah.
I know I've personally seen the word communism thrown out.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Like a lot whenever a Democratic Socialist is mentioned.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a little deep dive into what Democratic Socialism is. And then you can decide for yourself how you think about that. Also, we're going to touch on those third parties running under the flag of one of the two main parties. Because we're seeing
that's happening a lot.
We're seeing it a lot in New Hampshire.
We are.
I'm sure it's happening around the country too, but we're in New Hampshire, so we're going to talk about that.
Absolutely.
So, Jess, what's a Democratic Socialist?
Well,
can you tell me?
Yeah, I mean, a Democratic Socialist is sort of a modified version of classical socialism. Okay. So it's looking at socialism within the realm of having communal property, or really the means of kind of production, and kind of making sure that that is distributed sort of equally among the people according to their contributions. So, big issues for Democratic Socialists are a lot of things like tenant rights, labor organizations, defunding police, funding communities and social services, things like the Green New Deal, Medicare for All. These are like some of the core DSA values and platforms that they run on typically. So really, it's not just it's not communism, number one. So let's be clear, it's not communism. We can get into that in a minute.
And it's not classic socialism either, because classic socialism basically means no private industry, no private owners. It's basically the opposite of capitalism, right? The government controls key industries so that there's no private individuals or companies owning them. Kind of like where we're headed now, it feels like, in the U.S., where the government and industries are so intertwined. I mean, we've got billionaire owners of all of these tech companies and Amazon, like, whining and dining with the president. That feels like we're getting a little close to socialism.
Yeah, except that classic socialism also includes centralized planning by the government to distribute those resources back out.
We're not getting any of that.
We're not getting that. Let's be clear. When we talk about, yes, the private industry is getting very close to our federal government these days. Just look at Elon Musk. But it's certainly not necessarily moving into a socialist thing. A more... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, the difference with democratic socialism is they do believe the government should have some skin in the game or some control over people's basic necessities, making sure everybody has health care, making sure everybody has a place to live, making sure everybody has the food that they need and an education.
Yes.
The government should be the ones kind of ensuring those things.
Absolutely. Yes, that's a big deal. But
still having private industry, still having the element of capitalism in there.
Yeah, and so in classic socialism, the preferred way of that would be for the public to own those private industries through a cooperative, or something like that, which we actually have cooperatives in America. I don't know if people know this. There's a lot of farm cooperatives. And anyways, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but I got really excited about this episode. It was really interesting learning and reading more about this stuff.
So talk to me about communism.
Yeah.
What is that, and how is it different from democratic socialism?
So communism, my brain immediately thinks of that old school USSR flag, the bright red, the sickle and the hammer, right? And the same, China, right? So people get confused, I think, because the folks who sort of created communism and socialism both read the Communist Manifesto and both thought that Marxist ideology sounded pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
However, they went about it in two sort of different ways. You know, both came to be during the Industrial Revolution. So this it was in response really to the exploitation of workers in factories. You know, the Industrial Revolution, we see those pictures of like kids in mills, kids
we have
working.
some of that history here.
Absolutely.
With our mills, you know,
Absolutely.
those were not always just beautiful brick work buildings.
No, there was a lot of child labor that happened. A lot of people were injured because there were no regulations around industry.
No protections for workers,
etc. So, no such thing as sick leave, no such thing as a 40-hour work week. So, this ideology, both of these things, communism, socialism, came up in response really to the exploitation of this because both address class inequality.
Okay.
Class inequality was on the rise in the Industrial Revolution and becoming just kind of, I think, more and more obvious to people. Like, the gap between the super rich and the poor was, like, becoming astronomical. You know,
so like the Gilded Age time frame where
sort
you
of,
have, like, just disgusting displays of wealth.
Yes. And so, you know, the wealthier were getting wealthier, as they always do, and the poor were getting poorer, as they always do. There was a middle class that was starting to kind of come out of this, called the sort of the petite bourgeoisie. You know, think about like the floor managers in a mill. They started to kind of come into their own and gathering some wealth, becoming more of like a middle class society. Not huge at this point, okay? Not huge, but starting to take shape and form. And so you kind of have this person, right, who's in the middle between the super wealthy and the very poor, and who are they going to side with, right? Are they going to side with the people who pay them, or are they going to side with the workers who maybe they care about? I don't know. I don't get the impression many do.
I mean, I think we still see this today, right? There's that saying that everyone is, you know, everyone thinks they're going to wake up and be a billionaire if they just work hard enough, but the reality is everyone's much closer to being homeless than a billionaire.
Absolutely. And so this was also the period of time where we kind of have those American families who come about who become incredibly wealthy, like the old money today, if you will, the Vanderbilts, right? Who made their money in transporting goods. They owned a lot of railroads. They had a lot of means of transportation for all the things being made in the mills up here to get them out to consumers in the West and the South. So then we have the Carnegies who made their money in steel. What's a train made out of? Steel. Right? What are train tracks made out of? Steel. And then we have...
What are factory machines made out of?
Right. Steel.
You need it all. You
so
need it.
They really capitalized on that. And then, of course, we have J.P. Morgan, who all of us, I think, are very familiar with that name. He financed it all through his bank, literally. So just, it makes me think today, like I was just saying about how, like, Elon Musk, right, and his proximity to the presidency. I mean, he's received $22 billion in government contracts from Trump for SpaceX projects alone. You know, I don't know, or maybe it's like closer to Anthropic and how, you know, they're gonna buy $100 billion worth of Amazon Web Services and Amazon AI chips if Amazon will give them $25 billion now, and you know the means to create all their AI infrastructure. So, I don't know. It all like feels very incestuous to me. I'm not like a business person, but but anyway, back to the thing that I do know a little bit more about, which is communism versus socialism. So, you know, basically, you know, there's a few key differences, right? And one of the key differences is between communism and socialism is like, how do you, who gets what and how, right? And so in communism, everything is redistributed by the government. according to a person's need.
Okay.
And so it eliminates any sort of like element of contribution from the individual to society. Whereas in socialism, there is still that aspect, right? It's distributed according to his ability, and to each according to his contribution. So you still kind of have this framework where capitalism can sort of survive in a way, kind of just in a vacuum. You know, everyone gets the same in communism. There are probably some differences in a socialist society.
Okay.
You know, all economic resources in communism are publicly owned and controlled by the government. So there's no cooperative. This is the government. This is like China. This is very much like modern day China.
Okay.
Like, there's no personal property, there's no assets. But within socialism, you can own personal property. There's production and industry that are sort of managed by the government through regulation, or they're communally owned. So again, just like kind of slight differences. And then class is abolished. Within communism, there is no class. Everybody is the same. In socialism, classes exist, but it's a more equitable playing field. People have basic needs provided for them, so that they can continue to strive and earn more. Communism, everybody gets the exact same. It's not based on your needs, so if you need more than somebody else, you may not get it, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, now we're. I think we're now we're down to democratic socialism.
Yeah.
I think that's a basic.
So I think we've cleared up democratic socialism is not communism and it's not classic socialism.
No.
At all. So
No.
if you see people throwing those terms around in response to any, democratic socialist candidates or policies, it's not the same, and those people are just misinformed, uninformed.
Yeah.
So democratic socialism basically is looking for economic equality within a democratic system. So it still wants the capitalism, the public and private ownership, but its primary concern is the welfare of its citizens, right? You still want to have that market economy for goods, but like we said before, the government takes on the responsibility of social welfare and safety nets. So healthcare, housing, education, everybody has the basics of what they need to live. And the citizens should be actively engaged in the political process as well, electing leaders that will represent them and give them those basic needs.
Absolutely.
Basically.
Absolutely.
So we are in a democracy right now, and it's very, I don't know, I feel like people get confused with democracy and democratic socialism, thinking that they're
the
same, and they're really not. Democracy just is not involved in the economy, right? Capitalism is free to do as it
Get
does.
as rich as you want.
It's really, democracy is just about your political rights and your civil liberties. It doesn't care, or it's not intended to make sure you have what you need to live.
Right. Exactly.
Whereas democratic socialism is concerned with that. So they're different.
Absolutely. Like like in a democracy, you can say, okay, like everybody has the right to bodily autonomy, right? Like you all have that, right? But they're not going to ensure, like it's on you to make sure that you have what you need to go get a checkup at the doctor's office. Whereas democratic socialism kind of takes that a step further and says, okay, like you have the right to bodily autonomy, but also we're going to make sure that you can see a doctor when or if you need it, by giving everyone like, basic insurance or something. So really it is interesting, right? And like and when you think about the Democrats, right, and the Democratic Party, like the people who are struggling with, I think, the emergence of democratic socialists and how popular they're becoming are sort of these folks who maybe have been brought up in or are just much more familiar with older folks. I think in particular, like in terms of capitalism and the individualistic nature of democracy, whereas democratic
It
socialism...
feels more selfish to me,
does, right?
Like,
Yeah.
I was able to get what I needed. You should get what you need. And I'm not going to make sure that you have what you need because I took care of myself, and so you should too.
Yeah, it's not like a caring society thing.
No.
It's not a communal mindset, which you really need to have in order for democratic socialism to take hold. And you need to be concerned about everybody, right? So Democrats, when you see them kind of toggle this line between, I support Medicare expansion, but not Medicare for all, like that's somebody who is more in the mindset of a traditional democracy sort of mindset, not somebody with a DSA, right? So
it feels to me, just taking it back to, we've had the discussion at our local school board about should kids get to eat at school.
Oh, yeah.
And so, to me, the democratic feeling is like, kids should eat, but the parents have to fill out this form, and the poor kids should only get this type of sandwich, and they shouldn't get seconds. Whereas a democratic socialist would be like, all kids can have the same thing, and we're just going to pay for it because all kids should have healthy, nutritious food.
Every kid can have a hot lunch or a sandwich.
I feel like that's just like the
whatever.
difference between the two, right?
Yeah, 100%, and that's such a good, tangible example.
Yeah.
Because a democratic socialist would be like, we'll just pay for lunch for everybody. Like, they'll have their options and it'll be fine. Like, it's not. It's
just
because
feed the kids, right?
Just feed the kids, right?
Yeah.
Where you're absolutely right. A Democrat in a democracy would say, okay, well, there's certain contingencies, right? There's certain
they can
things
only
that you
have
have
it
to do.
if they have to deserve it. They have to work for it, etc.
Yeah, they have to prove something. They have to prove that they're worthy almost.
Yeah.
So I mean, and you did some research though, interestingly, about some of the, because there's not a lot of societies that are really truly purely democratic socialist. There's societies, I think about France, right, where some democratic socialists have been in the top position of power, but they're not necessarily that. That's not necessarily the framework for their government, but there are very strong values. But you actually looked at some that are.
I did, yeah. I don't know, everyone always says Disneyland is the happiest place on earth, right? But then if you actually Google it, there are countries that are
happier,
the happiest. And they're not the US, surprisingly, or unsurprisingly. There's some Nordic countries, so Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and Finland specifically, that do participate in some form of social democracy, and they are always consistently ranked in the top 10 happiest countries on earth, and the 4 that I just called out are almost always in the top 6.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's not hard to draw a straight line from a country full of citizens who are getting their basic needs met and who are thriving.
Yeah. I know, right? They're living their best lives.
Imagine you don't have to sit down and struggle about, am I going to be able to feed my kids tomorrow?
Right.
Or, am I going to be able to go to the doctor when my child has an ear infection or when I have an ear infection?
Right.
I mean, even thinking people in the U.S. refuse ambulance service in an emergency because of the cost, and their insurance doesn't cover it. Where if you're in one of these Nordic countries, you're just healthy because wellness is a priority, and you can get the medical benefits that you need when you need them. And so there's just that whole level of stress taken off that whole entire country of people.
Yeah.
And stress ages you. Stress is one of the biggest contributors to autoimmune diseases. There's all this research about preventative ways to keep yourself from having all these other complications.
Oh my God, I know.
And the U.S. just seems like it's really hell-bent on making sure people get sick.
I know. Well, and I just was thinking about something too. Stress eating, right?
Yeah.
Which, if you do that enough, which a lot of us in America are stressed out most of the time, and you eat, and if you're a stress eater, and I, in the past, have been a stress eater, and you gain weight, and then that causes more issues, and then you try, it's just things compound. Stress is seriously the root of so many problems, and when you have sort of those basic needs met, right, and social social worker here, I always go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and like the most basic needs are your physiological and your safety needs. And so, I mean, that is literally just like food, shelter, clothing, sense of safety.
Yeah.
You know, and when those things can be met, then you can actually start to move on to the other things, right? The things about belonging and your relationships, the things about your esteem and having a fulfilling career and contributing to society in a way that matters and is important to you. And then that like self-actualization piece where you're just like at the pinnacle, right? Like you...
And you don't have to be stuck at a crappy job you hate because that's your health insurance. Or you don't have to... I mean,
not everything is tied to work.
There's just so many different avenues that your life can take when you don't have to worry about those things.
Right. And like, it's so interesting that that these Nordic countries, you know, they're fulfilling the bottom two tiers of that hierarchy. And they're seeing people move. I think what is causing them to be happy, right, is being able to move through those top three. When you're not constantly struggling just to kind of survive, then you can do all these other things.
Thrive, So back to the U.S. and Democratic Socialists. We've, again, been seeing a lot of them running as Democrats recently and winning Democratic primaries. I think that people are hungry for something different in this country for sure. And I hope that I hope that the National Democratic Party is taking notes. Personally, we want more progressive candidates. A large amount of us want more progressive candidates.
It would be nice.
But why are they not running as Democratic Socialists? Well, we have a two-party system, for better or worse, in this country. We're seeing it in the state of New Hampshire over the past, I would say, decade, maybe decade and a half, where Free Staters have come in, and they're a branch of the Libertarian Party, which is not a national political party. So they moved to this state, and they ran as Republicans, and they won as Republicans, and they have had control of our state house for too long, too fucking long. They are also now starting to run as Democrats, because I think people are hip to them running as Republicans. They are now starting to run as Democrats, and we will talk about that in another episode, because you gotta watch out. There's some in Manchester, by the way. So they have to run as one of those two parties, and out of the two parties, Democrats align most closely with their policies, I think.
With the DSA.
And yes, DSA is most closely aligned with the Democrats, and they're hopefully pushing our party a little bit to the left. But there just is not a path to win running as something other than a Democrat or a Republican.
Right.
We've got a history of this. Most recently, in 1968, there was a gentleman named George Wallace who ran on a platform of segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever.
Lovely.
Holy crap. He won 46 electoral college votes in that election. He came pretty damn close to being our president. He didn't win, luckily, or I think we'd have a much different present day than we do now. But we also had Teddy Roosevelt. He was our most successful third-party candidate. He was president. He didn't win the nomination. He got mad he didn't win the nomination for his re-election.
He was a Republican, FYI.
The Republicans snubbed him. And so he founded the Progressive Party, which then became the Democrat Party, I believe, that we know today, in a weird twist.
There is a connection.
There's a little bit of history there. The parties sort of switched their platforms. And Teddy got 88 electoral votes with his Bull Moose Party, which is what he did. So it's not for lack of trying, all that to say. It's not for lack of trying that third-party candidates, but there just isn't a majority of folks that are willing to go out there and vote for those third parties. So again, at the end of the day, we are in a two-party system in this country, and so I think we're going to continue to see more and more these third-party candidates running as Democrats and or Republicans and winning primaries to do so. And I think it's going to change. I think it's going to change the party.
I agree.
Eventually, and I hope it does. Honestly. I think they're really to some Democrats that are real disillusioned with the current Democratic Party. Whatever your feelings are on that, there is a large majority of Democrats who just don't feel represented by our current elected officials.
No.
And
Democrat and Republican.
And independents as well.
You know?
And independent can be folks that, have historically voted Republican and just don't feel aligned with the current Republican Party these days.
Right.
I think there's a lot to like about what the Democratic Socialist Party offers. People are struggling.
Yeah.
Right now.
Very
It's
much
really
so.
It's real hard out there, and people want the government to do something to help make it more affordable and make this place a better place to live.
Right.
Healthcare's expensive, cost of living's expensive. I mean, you need a full-time job just to have health insurance in this country.
Yeah.
And I think that unfortunately our current elected officials on both sides just have proven they're not able to get it done to make things better.
No.
And
it's disappointing, honestly. I mean, because we repeatedly, kind of like you said, elect these candidates who, promise change or feel like they're the good guys, but then they don't sign on to big reform, and I think, I always think about healthcare because that's been such a big issue for so long, and the costs are so outrageous at this point, and the fact that it's tied to your job is so frustrating. We don't have anybody in our current federal delegation, except weirdly, I think Virginia Shaheen back in the day, in 2017, she signed on Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill. I don't think any of them have come out and said, yeah, support Medicare for All. Or some version of that, right? Like, it doesn't have to be Medicare for All, but, or to stop funding ICE completely, right?
I think that the thing that I think about the most is we keep seeing our elected officials, most prominently Democrats, wringing their hands and someone should do something.
Right, it's like we elected you to do something.
You
are the one who's supposed to do something.
I've seen something from Cory Booker being like, this is unconscionable. Someone should do something about this.
Right.
And everyone's like, dude, that's you. You should do something.
You do it.
And they just aren't. For whatever reason. There's a lot of reasons, but they're just not. And the fight just doesn't seem to be effective.
They have lost their fight. And I think the thing about the DSA running within the two-party system, or like the Libertarians running within the Republican, like, for voters, right? Like, there is some comfort in voting for somebody within that party. Even if maybe, like, you're a Democrat and maybe you're more centrist, you're not so hardcore, Bernie, feel the burn kind of a, Democrat. But, like, if that's your guy, if that's a person who won the primary and they are calling themselves a Democrat, there is some comfort in that, right? Like, you could maybe feel a little bit better voting for them and saying, okay, like, they're not the person I voted for in the primary, but, like, okay, I am going to stick with them, right? And, like, that is a smart move because you need all those people to stick with you.
Yeah.
You need them to come back out and to vote for you later. If we're going to win, if we're going to defeat all of these MAGA Republicans who are coming out.
And I think the Democratic Socialists with Zoran Monday in New York City are proving that they are willing to get in and get things done. I mean, he's done a lot of things in the 7 months he's been mayor. We have an episode on it. Go listen if you haven't. But they're proving that they can get in and govern effectively.
Absolutely.
The other thing that I think really appeals to people about the DSA candidates is they typically reject any corporate PAC money, which has been such a talking point right now with all the huge corporate PACs that are funneling money into candidates and campaigns, and that leaves those candidates really beholden to that PAC and their interests. Where if you are running a truly people-funded campaign and people are donating really small dollar amounts to you because they believe in you,
right,
and you're getting $5 from 500,000 people instead of $500,000 from 2 corporations,
right,
it really shows that people believe in you and believe in your story, and that
Yeah.
you are now in a position to truly represent them and pass laws that are going to benefit those that have voted for you, and not
Yes.
the people that paid for you to get elected.
Yes.
I think money in politics has just been such a huge topic, and people want to know who's paying for these candidates,
Right.
who's funding them, and they don't necessarily want to vote for people that are taking huge amounts of PAC money any
No.
longer. And I think this is going to continue to be
Yeah.
a really big sticking point with people.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. I think that, folks' eyes are opened, really, to, like, how much money has, influenced politics. And honestly, we can kind of thank Donald Trump for that, because, he's so brazenly, like, with his award money to Elon Musk, and a whole bunch of billions of dollars in government contracts with, to Jeff Bezos, to other folks who've donated, millions of dollars to his campaign. He has now given them basically kickbacks for that. And people don't want that. People are seeing it on both sides. And so, yeah, this is definitely going to be a sticking point for folks. I think we're going to see some real interesting sort of upsets in terms of primaries, and people with maybe not as much money beating people with a lot of money. And I'm here for that. I'm excited about that, because I think that's really what we need, is sort of a recentering of our values as a party.
Agree.
Yeah.
So all this to say, I don't think Democratic Socialists are technically Democrats in the way we think of a Democrat.
Yeah.
I think they have a place in the party. And like I said, I really think that they're going to change what the party looks like. Maybe not with this election session.
Yeah.
I think it's too quick. But I think long term, if more of them get elected and win primaries and ultimately win seats in government, I think our party's going to start looking a little bit different.
Yeah. I definitely think in the next decade we're going to see some, like, major shifts within the Democratic Party because of the success that the DSA is having right now. And I'm here for it. I'm excited for it, because I want to see these tangible results that the DSA, that all those people in New York City are getting. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, agree. I think it's an interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Very interesting.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, thanks for listening, everybody.
bye.
Have a good one.